guys, welcome to our channel. My name is Dawn and this channel is Dawn Does Keto. This channel is all about my accountability and my personal journey on the ketogenic diet. It is Thursday night and tonight is a night that we do an episode of Dinner with Dawn.
And Mike.
So we'll jump into our chapter here in a little bit, but I just want to show you guys real quick what we're having. We each have 4 eggs, some bacon, and a couple chaffles. My chaffle got a little overdone, but that's okay. It's just a conveyance for me to mash up my eggs and eat it kind of like toast.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to do that.
Yeah.
It's been a while. You know, we're one of the few people that mash our eggs up the way we do.
Yeah.
Very few people do this.
And then people will say, well, why don't you just scramble them? Because it's not the same thing.
Yep, these are mashed eggs, not scrambled, because they still have the yolk. I remember when I was in high school, I was on the track team, and for a big meet that we had towards the end of the year, we would all go out to breakfast. We'd take a half a day off school because you could miss a half a day and still qualify to participate in sports. So we took the half day off as a team, went out to breakfast, and then we hung out at one of the guys' houses, one of the captains, for a little while, and then we'd go back to school, and then, you know, we would run that evening. We went out to breakfast, and I was mashing my eggs up just like this, and the guy sitting next to me, I think I was a freshman then, and one of the senior guys says, "What are you doing to your egg?" "Why don't you just get scrambled?" That's exactly what he said. And I said, "Does that look like scrambled eggs to you?" Mm-mm. Scrambled eggs are dry. These are not.
Yeah, so we take like the eggs after we mash them. And we always would like put them on toast, but obviously we're not eating toast anymore, so.
So we're going to try it with a chaffle. Mmm.
Good. My chaffles, so I made the chaffles before we started dinner. And what I decided was I would just put them in the toaster, kind of like an Eggo, to warm them up before we were ready to eat. And I should have only pushed the toaster down once, and I did it twice, so they got
parts of them got a little overdone.
Yeah, otherwise it probably they would have been perfect, but that was my way of warming them up when the rest of the food was done. As always, we're running late. It's about 7:30, so we're not doing too bad because we already got our walk in. But Mike, we were getting ready to go out and cook on the Blackstone. We did our eggs and bacon on the Blackstone, and Mike's like, you know, it's freezing cold out, it's dark. These are nights like in the past when we were still doing, you know, the standard American diet that we probably just would have like ordered a pizza,
yep,
you know, or gotten something quick and easy like that. But nope, we were out in the cold cooking.
That coupled with the fact that we looked in our kitchen sink and we have a sink full of dirty dishes because we eat on our dishes every day instead of going out to eat. And those two factors alone were the reasons that we would use in the past to why we didn't eat at home and why we didn't cook. Because it was too messy, too much effort, took too long, and we're going outside and cooking on the grill, so we're outside where it's cold. When all we got to do is drive down to the street, get a pizza, come home, and be done with it. So that's the difference. And it's amazing to me how many people probably feel the same way, but they choose the latter. They decide to go get the pizza.
The bottom line is we're lazy. We don't like to cook. We don't like to clean. So we take the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm. We did.
And tonight would have been one of those nights because we both had long days. And now we're trying to do everything else we were doing and fit in a walk every night.
Yeah, so not only did we get our walk in, we're doing something that we don't normally do. We do go out for walks quite often in the nice weather, but not every day. But we also came home and then went out and still cooked. I mean, may not sound like a big deal to a lot of you because you enjoy cooking. We do not. We have not hidden that fact over the course of this channel at all. We do not like to cook. Never have. Even when we first got married and we thought, oh, you know, we
have our own place.
Our own place and we can sit down at the table. No, didn't matter. If we could nuke it, we nuked it. And if we could order out, we'd order out.
And that's how I got to be 233 pounds.
It certainly did not hurt, you know.
So what'd you have for lunch today?
So as usual, I shouldn't say as usual. Generally, we don't have leftovers anymore because we eat them all at dinner. But last night, our dinner, you didn't eat all yours. And so you so graciously left your leftovers for me to take to work today. So we had...
Usually people are like, I don't want your leftovers. We get excited about having those.
I mean, in the past, again, we would not, I shouldn't say we, Dawn would not eat leftovers. She was not a leftover fan. I, on the other hand, can eat leftovers, and sometimes I can eat them for 2, 3, 4 days, depending on what it is. But we had the pig shots last night.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I never told them yesterday what we ate, but...
Well, we had pig shots.
Yeah.
she can tell you what they are. I just know what they're called. And I know they taste amazing. We each had like 15.
Most people who do keto know what pig chops
Oh, well,
are.
then I don't need to explain. But anyway, she had some left over. So instead of just using them today for her lunch, she told me to take them to work so that I could use them. And so I took those, and I had some nuts, and I had some pepperoni. We had some little pepperoni left over from a pizza that we made here not too long ago, and I ate some of that. So I made for a nice lunch. Wasn't stuffed, but very comfortable, and it helped me get through the rest of the day. And so I felt great. Because we don't like to cook, it's more of an effort, and we also have to plan what are we going to make. We just don't think like that.
The way that we like to roll in the past was, okay, it's time to eat. We're hungry. What sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, right then and there. Whereas now, with doing this way of eating, we have to think ahead. Like, I need to know tomorrow, what are we doing? Because if food needs thawed out, if something needs picked up at the store, I mean, we just always have to think ahead. And we're not used to that because we were always a spur of the moment, what do you want now?
Yeah, we lived for the moment.
Yeah.
But she asked me about that today, and I said, hey, we haven't had eggs and bacon in a while, and we ate it quite a bit on BBB&E, but we really didn't eat it at all in February. So I thought, you know what? Easy meal, good meal, filling, so let's do that.
I had my fat coffee, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and a baggy bacon, which is pretty standard these days. That's pretty much what I eat most days. For some reason today, after I finished working, I had to go to the store because we were actually out of bacon, so I had to get us some more. And I had to get cheese for the chaffles and some other things. But I got home and I was super duper hungry. So I broke open a bag of the keto snickerdoodle cookies and had some of those. Yeah. And I really felt guilty because over the last couple months, we've done no keto treats. I've done no keto treats for the last 2 months, and we've done no snacking for the last 2 months. So it felt weird to eat something in between while, I was like waiting for dinner to have those to kind of tide me over, but I didn't need them. Don't get me wrong, but I was hungry and Mike wasn't home from helping with his parents yet. We still had to go on our walk and I just wanted to have something. So,
but you tell a lot of our friends out in the keto world that you got to do what's good for you and what's sustainable for you.
Right.
But
if I was actually genuinely hungry, I shouldn't have eaten keto cookies.
No, and I agree, but
it wasn't like the best decision, but
that one time is not going to make or break you. Mm-mm. And you've also disciplined yourself so well over the last several months and over the last couple of years that you can do that, and you shouldn't feel guilty for it. If you do it every day, then it becomes a problem. But
right.
Just doing it one time.
And we don't eat keto treats every single day. Mm-mm. I think it was just because I haven't had any keto treats at all. Mike and I split a creamy last night after dinner.
That was good. It was so good.
Yeah, I did a cookies and cream creamy with a little bit of cookie dough Jordan skinny syrup in it. And then I put a few of the little tiny keto cookies in there and some Lily's chocolate chips. Now, you guys know if you make a creamy that you really don't have that much room to add in anything in the top. So it was only just a couple little things. But that was my first keto treat at all for this year. And it was very, very minimal, again, because when you're making that keto chow and you're doing the creamy, you have just this much space in the top to put like a few things to mix in there. So it was just a little bit. But yeah, so today, I don't know, I just felt guilty. Like it was my first snack or treat that I've had since the beginning of the year. It just was weird.
But if you look at it that way, your first in this year, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
1 in 2 months. Now, I altered my creamy a little bit yesterday, and I don't know if you realized I did this, but I went in and grabbed some of the Lily's chocolate chips that we have and sprinkled them on top.
Oh, yeah, I only had what I had mixed in.
And that made it even more delicioso. Honey, I was just thinking, what would go really good with dinner, especially when we're done? A smoke.
Right.
I mean, why not? According to Gary Taubes, the smoking industry is really, really fueled off of the sugar epidemic.
That it is.
How do you like that segue? I make that comment, folks, because chapter 3 in the book, The Case Against Sugar, whole chapter devoted to one of the most unbelievable combinations that I could have ever thought of, and I never would have dreamt that these two items would go together. Never would have thought about it. The marriage of tobacco and sugar, and this chapter was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just like we said before, it was crazy to us because I never knew there was sugar in cigarettes at all. It never even crossed my mind. And so to learn this, he says that this book is about the consequences to human health of consuming significant amounts of sugar by eating it or drinking it. Now we're going to inhale it. So he says that just like diabetes at one time was a rare occurrence, so was lung cancer. But with the popularity of the American blended cigarettes.
And that's an important thing to know.
Yeah.
American blended cigarette.
Yeah. That is what actually skyrocketed the cases of lung cancer. You know, we were talking about how they're American blended. The cigarettes by themselves would have been way less harmful if it hadn't been for the addition of sugar to them.
Well, so when I read this chapter, a standard cigarette at one time, and it wasn't even cigarettes, it was cigars and pipes, because that's what people smoked.
That's what people smoked. That's what they put their tobacco in, and
but
they
the
smoked
leaves, the leaves they used and the way they cured them, there's two different types of leaf. There was an alkaline leaf and an acidic leaf. And the alkaline leaves were the ones that were low in nicotine, but they were, because of the alkaline, they were like next to impossible to inhale.
Yeah, most of the time when people smoked cigars and smoked pipes, they smoked it, but they did not inhale it
You couldn't.
The way that people drag on and inhale a cigarette.
Because the smoke was so irritating and so heavy, the human body just couldn't tolerate it, and it was very difficult. So it wasn't pleasurable, it wasn't enjoyable. But then
people still did it, but
they did it, but they didn't inhale. That's what I'm saying. That's where the pleasure has been derived from, is from the inhaling. And so they found a way through the curing process, because tobacco, just like a lot of other plants, have natural sugars in them, but very small amounts. But they discovered, and there's a lot of information in here, and I'm trying to remember it correctly, but there was two kinds of leaves, and one had more of a sugar content in it.
There's an air-cured Kentucky or a burley tobacco and a flue-cured Virginia tobacco. So those are the two different kinds. The flue curing was what made the inhalation possible. So it's that flue curing Virginia tobacco, and they combine those two things together.
Well, what happened was when they flue cured them, it took the carbohydrate, the natural occurring carbohydrate in the leaf, and it turned it to sugar. And that sugar increased in the plant.
Yeah.
And they found that because of that, just like with food, it made it more pleasurable. It made the inhaling of the cigarette or of the tobacco more pleasurable and easier on the lungs and the membranes.
Yeah, so it says here that tobacco that begins with a relatively high carbohydrate content, that's normal, and is low in sugar, it starts off it's only 3%.
Right.
But once it goes through that process, it ends up being as much as 22% sugar, or sucrose specifically. So Mike kind of already talked about this, but he says the sugar content of the flue-cured tobacco leaves is the key to inhalation. The high sugar content results in tobacco smoke that is acidic rather than alkaline. Chemists would say that it has a lower pH. Alkaline smoke irritates the mucous membranes and stimulates the coughing response. Acidic smoke can be inhaled without doing either.
And that's why if somebody does inhale a cigar, they end up coughing and choking. But a cigarette, they don't. Now, there's a learning curve there once you learn how to do that, but that's not the same thing. And so, yeah, by flue curing it, they made it tolerable for the lungs and the membranes, and then it had that natural sweetness to it. But they didn't stop there. That's the interesting part.
So basically, in 1913, they candied up the tobacco, is what they said.
Well, so even before they reached that point, the flue-cured tobacco, I think we mentioned, was low in nicotine. So the addictive property right there was minimal. The reason why we mentioned earlier about the blending is because what they did then is they took the sweetness of the flue-cured and they took the high nicotine content of the air-cured and they blended them, thus creating the American blended cigarette. We were the only country basically doing that. What this did was allow you to inhale a higher quantity, a higher concentrate of nicotine. So you were getting a double whammy because you were getting more sugar,
And
which
more
at the
nicotine.
time, right, that they didn't really think much of, but the higher concentrate of nicotine, which then was the addictive part. And so then you're hooked.
Yeah.
But again, Dawn's going to touch on this now. They found something else out and they took it another step, and it just totally changed the whole game.
Yeah. So in 1913, basically it was the Camel Company, I believe.
Well, it was RJ, they created the Camel cigarette, but it was RJ Reynolds, I think, that actually was the cigarette company.
They realized that the tobacco was porous and absorbent, and the farmers realized that they could basically infuse the leaves with the sugar. So the farmers took to sweetening their tobacco after curing with a process that immersed the leaves in a sugar sauce. They basically marinated it
Sugar coated.
in a concentrated sugar solution that might also typically include honey, maple syrup, molasses, fruit syrups, licorice, and other sweeteners.
You're taking something that is already addictive, right? It already is palatable. And that's another thing that sugar did to tobacco. It made the aroma sweeter, which made it more tolerable.
It made it more appealing to women and children, young adults.
That sweetening process widened the appeal, like Dawn just said, to a greater audience. And then some other historical events come by that give them an opportunity to catapult smoking and the addiction like you would never believe.
So it says the tobacco was able to absorb 50% of its own weight in sugar through that saucing process.
So you're going from 3% to 22% to 50% of just sugar in a blended cigarette and blended tobacco that already has a higher nicotine concentrate. So you're taking two, by far, the most addictive substances and combining them together.
It was less tobacco and more sugar, which ended up actually being cheaper for them, because pound for pound, sugar was cheaper than tobacco.
Yeah.
So you're not using as much tobacco by adding the sugar.
So now you've got cheaply made, high sugar, high nicotine content. You're making a killing on them financially. You're addicting the public to them at a mass rate. And then, and I don't know if this is where you're going with this, how do you convince people that this is something they want to do? Well, World War I comes along, and the government basically ships millions of cigarettes to soldiers overseas, and bam, they all come home cigarette addicts. And it didn't stop there. You did World War I, World War II, and even Vietnam. And, my father served in Vietnam, and he talked about that all the time. There were like 3 things that the government sent them in their food containers, in their, when they sent over truckloads of food and airlifted food and stuff. Cigarettes, Kool-Aid, and I think gum. Those were like the 3 things that they got mass quantities of.
Didn't a lot of them drink Coke too? Wasn't Coke a...
Not in Vietnam, they didn't, no.
Okay.
All sugar. I mean, that's part of the issue.
So it says here, by 1929, U.S. tobacco growers were saucing burley tobacco with 50 million pounds of sugar a year and using it in over 120 billion cigarettes. The sugar balanced out the tobacco's naturally alkaline smoke, maximizing its inhalability and delivering even more nicotine into the lungs.
And this was all approved. Yeah. Everybody approved it. Nobody had any problem with it. I get it. You learn over time whether things are good or bad. We're learning about sugar now. We're really getting the full effects of it. But if you think about it, there was a time period when this was so acceptable and commonplace. And today, I mean, it just makes me cringe. Yeah. And I'm not a smoker, but it's crazy.
Now, we're not smokers, and we never have been.
No.
Which is why this totally floored us, because we were completely ignorant to the fact that there was even sugar in cigarettes.
Right. Both of our parents smoked.
My parents still do.
My parents do not. My mom just recently quit. It's probably been within the last 5 years, maybe.
It's been a while.
You think it has been?
Yeah.
Maybe it's longer. It seems maybe it has been.
And I was so proud of her for that, because she just
one day she
was just like, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
And she didn't. It was
now,
crazy.
Sugar, on the other hand, we've talked about it. But I told her these facts about cigarettes and smoking and sugar and the whole process and why they did it and what it did and how it affected. And she's like, wow.
Did she know that there was sugar
She had
in
no
cigarettes?
clue.
Wow.
And she said, I would have never known that either. But I mean, it's fascinating. And I'm not, like I said, we're not smokers, but
It also brings up the fact to me, and I'm thinking about this, is that a lot of people who quit smoking end up gaining a lot of weight. And they say that it's partially just a habit thing because you need that hand to mouth because you're not, doing this anymore. So you're picking up and you're eating. But I also wonder if it's not the addiction of the sugar. And because you're not getting the sugar in the cigarettes, then you're turning to other sugary foods as a replacement. For that.
And you're right, because they being people that were former smokers, like my dad, for example, he said before, and again, I don't know how true this is, but this is what he said, that when you smoke for so long a period of time that it dulls your taste, your sense of taste, and so when you quit over a period of time as the body heals, you begin to taste things again. And that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I get that. But now knowing that there's sugar in cigarettes, it goes back to what you just said.
That even though they've quit smoking, they still have the addiction to the cigarettes.
The sweetness.
Yeah.
And now they can taste it even more. And so, bam, like my mom, I mean, she loves her sweet stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no change in that. When I think about that she was able to quit smoking, but she cannot quit eating any sugary stuff.
Well, people have said before that quitting sugar is a more addictive substance than cigarettes, or I've even heard it compared to heroin. Now, I don't know if that's a fact, but people have said, because again, with something like that, you can completely distance yourself from it. You never have to be around it again, so it makes it easier to walk away from. I don't want to say it's easier, but easier than sugar, because we still have to eat, and sugar's in everything. In most cases, you can't completely abstain from it.
Right.
So it's easier to fall back into the trap of, I'll just have a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, we fall into it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we do. We
Yeah.
struggle with it all the time.
I mean, I've heard that before. So we've had people in the keto community say that they were smokers and that giving up sugar was harder than quitting cigarettes.
That's just,
So,
that floors me.
Yeah.
Now again,
I can't compare because I
never smoked,
Yeah.
right? So we don't know how difficult that is. But learning that sugar was a part of that process just means now you're battling two addictions.
Right.
And quitting one actually appears, at least from my perspective, to fuel the other.
Right.
And so are you really winning that battle? I mean, you are, I guess, from a lung cancer standpoint.
But if you're just overcompensating then with sugar because
Right.
you gave up cigarettes, then you're going to have all the complications that sugar brings
Right,
on.
so you're trading one health
trading
issue
on-
for another.
Still cancer. I think cancer is higher in people that eat sugar. Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. I mean, all the things that come along with eating the sugar. So
This chapter was just mind-blowing. This book has been so good, 3 chapters in. And it was a short chapter, too, so we were able to read the whole thing.
Yeah, I wanted to let you guys know we did read the whole chapter. So
Yeah, but packed full of information. So if you have the book and you've read that, I'm sure you can understand and agree. If you don't have the book, I'm telling you, we're up to this point, this information, I mean, there's so much stuff here that we never knew. Never even knew.
So that's it.
Yeah.
It was a very short chapter, but very interesting. I think it's very interesting.
Yes, so far. I'm giving it a thumbs up right now. If we were Siskel and Ebert at the movies, we're Mike and Dawn at the dinner table. And we're giving it a thumbs up so far. And one last thing before we go, at least as far as I'm concerned, I just want to say to everyone out there, if you are planning on coming to the KetOH-IO Meetup, I can't wait. I am getting more and more excited about it. I cannot wait. This is going to be a blast. And I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you.
If you haven't ordered your shirt, you only have about 2 weeks left before the cutoff if you want to have the shirt sent to you. I think the cutoff is the 20th if you're going to have it delivered to the meetup and just pick it up there. But we're just really encouraging everybody to wear your shirts to the KetOH-IO Meetup. Mike and I will have ours on, so don't make us look silly that we're the only ones wearing them.
We're going to look cool. Doesn't matter.
But get your shirts, wear them to the meetup, and we're super excited about it.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see all you guys. I know some of you guys saw each other at the one on the 25th of February, but of course we weren't there.
But we weren't there, so guess what?
So we're coming in hot, guys.
Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff going on. I'm still in the planning stages, talking to other friends that are helping me plan this, and I think it's going to be an amazing day. So I just hope that the weather is as nice as it was for the February meetup, because they had beautiful weather.
Yeah.
So
Keep our fingers
I'm
crossed.
still nervous. Like it was cold tonight when we did our walk. We really had one snowstorm and one really super cold weekend this winter, and that's it.
Yeah, it's been very mild, so
We bought our granddaughters snow pants for Christmas so they could go out and play in the snow.
been no snow.
No,
Nothing to play in.
no, not enough.
And they
It's
would
been
enjoy
more-
it. At least
yeah.
one of them would. She would just absolutely be fascinated
They're
with
small, and I bought those snow pants kind of big, so hopefully if we don't get any snow, they can wear them next year.
Right.
But it's just crazy. The weather has been unbelievable. That's why I'm really nervous. Like, we're just going to get hit with a really bad snowstorm at the end of March or something. So
it. Hey, it snowed into May in Ohio, so we have to be aware of that.
yeah. So that's everything for tonight, guys. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to our channel, why?
Oh yeah. Why?
Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification button so that when our next video comes out, you will be alerted to it.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right. Have a good weekend. See you later.